Good morning. Welcome to the TCC Town Hall meeting. I am Nancy Jones, co-chair of Classified Association. Classified Association, as part of shared governance at TCC, is charged with representing the classified staff and wage employees. The four co-chairs have been meeting remotely this summer. Christy Bradley, Chesapeake, Tony Dixon, Norfolk, Paula Wood, Virginia Beach, and myself. And in May, sent out a survey to all classified staff and wage employees, requesting them to share any concerns or questions about returning to campus that they might have. I would like to thank those of you that have participated in that. And we appreciate your input, your thoughtful questions and concerns, and your willingness to participate. It is greatly appreciated. Shared governance can only work if all groups involved are willing to participate. We presented the issues to the President's Cabinet, and Dr. Constant and her team are with us today to respond to our concerns. As I pass this over to Dr. Marcia Constant, please join me in welcoming our TCC President, Dr. Marcia Constant.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Nancy, for introducing me this morning, as well as introducing the team that's joining us on this town hall. And Nancy has stated absolutely correctly. We received your questions from the Classified Association, and we are here to respond. We want you to know that we read everything that you wrote. Cabinet had long, detailed discussions, and we want to ensure that we are responding appropriately to answer as many concerns that you may have. And I'm sure there will be others. So certainly during the course of time, as we transition back to our campuses, and we are going to learn more, and we're going to perhaps do things a little bit differently, but we are trying to make a great start in being able to transition the college back as safely and as effectively as possible. So again, we are here to respond to your questions and your concerns. The first, as I mentioned, when we started these town halls a month or so ago, it seems like a very long time now, but when we started these town halls, one of the things that we talked about was considering bringing people back around the 10th of June. And so we are making plans to consider what we are calling a first wave of reopening the college for employees only, the first wave of reopening the college. But before I move any further with my remarks, I do want to extend a very warm thank you to the housekeeping staff and all of the facilities and maintenance people for all of the work that you have done in preparation, keeping the facilities clean and getting us set up and ready to return. So thank you, because you have just been tremendous, and you continue to be. Every time I visit any campus, I always see people from the housekeeping area. So thank you so much for what you're doing. Excuse me. So as we continue to telework or work from home, as we've called, that is going to remain an option. But again, we are looking to bring what we're calling the first wave of opening back for the college. I know that many of you will continue to telework and work from home. I also want to let you know that in visiting the campuses, I had the privilege to go around and just look at most of our campuses yesterday, along with Matt and others from the facilities area. And I will tell you that I am absolutely convinced that we are prepared to bring back the small number of people who we are anticipating to return during this first wave. We're expecting by count that there are roughly between up to 180 people who will return, and that's throughout all of the campuses. But certainly Matt will provide a great deal more detail in terms of the things that we have done to be prepared and ready for your return as you make your way back to the campuses. Each of the vice presidents is aware of who's returning this week and subsequent weeks. We have done, as I said, extensively taken care to ensure that all of our campuses are as safe as possible for your return. We know who's returning. We've worked with the VPs, and the VPs have worked with each of you by staff or your managers. So we have a very good knowledge of who will be returning. And also, one of the things that we've talked about, we've had so many conversations during our time at Cabinet, but one of the things that we've talked about is that as you continue to work from home, we want to ensure that your productivity level remains high or remains as it has been, as if you were here in your office. One of the vice presidents shared with me that work reports are submitted daily by and to the appropriate supervisors. And I think this is a very good idea, because that's the way that we're ensuring that productivity remains during our time of teleworking and also as we transition back. So as you return, I want you to know that we will continue to implement ways where we assure that the college is moving forward. Also, I want to just add that as others plan to return back to the college, you will be in communication with your appropriate supervisors, who will be in communications with the vice presidents over your units. And therefore, we will have a good idea as others return. One of the questions that often comes to me is whether or not, how will we know when there is just a mass number of people returning to the college? Well, we will know because your supervisors will be communicating with you. They will be communicating with the vice presidents over that area, and the vice presidents will be communicating with facilities so that we will ensure that your particular workspace will be ready for your return. So we're doing all of this in compliance with the best practices as have been provided to us by the CDC guidelines. We are following all of them. So again, my purpose this morning is just to give you an update and to continue to communicate with you about the college's plan to transition. I'm going to stop and introduce Beth, who's going to address some of the issues around policy.
Thank you, Dr. Constant, and good morning, everyone. So as Nancy mentioned, there were a number of concerns or questions that were submitted, and I've been asked to address policy questions, and really they're categorized into three main topics, three things to really focus on. And Dr. Constant has already talked extensively about teleworking. I'll just add a couple of comments there. And also there were questions around notification procedures in the event of exposure, and some questions related to testing and temperature checking. And I do want to spend just a few minutes talking about face coverings. So from the teleworking perspective, as Dr. Constant said, not all employees will be returning to campus tomorrow. Each cabinet member is responsible for evaluating units and determining which employees need to physically return to the workplace and when. And so it'll kind of be on a staggered schedule. In some cases, employees' primary job duties are not really suitable for teleworking. Employees may need access to resources that are on site. In other cases, employees may not have access to the technology resources they need to most effectively work at home. Supervisors also have to consider what services or tasks are not being performed that we have to start again. And so those are situations where supervisor and cabinet member may decide to have an affected employee return to work, even though teaching faculty and students will not be returning to campuses right away. I know there was a question really around if students and faculty aren't here, why do we need to be here? And I think that sort of addresses that broadly. So number of questions, a tremendous amount of questions that were submitted about whether we're allowed to telework. And as the president has indicated, the short answer to that is yes. If your supervisor and respective president's cabinet member determine that teleworking has been effective and your presence on site is not required, or in cases if there's a valid reason for an employee to remain off-site, medical situations, potential exposure, those kinds of situations. In some cases, employees may be returning on-site for part of the work week while continuing to work remotely for the rest of the work week. Supervisors can stagger those on-site work schedules so that everyone is not on site at the same time. That strategy will help us to ensure we're able to maintain appropriate social distancing within workspaces. If you are returning to work tomorrow, your supervisor has already hopefully communicated with you about that. You're well aware and you know the plans for your return to work. In the coming weeks, as President's Cabinet continues to monitor and evaluate, teleworking options and employees' on-site work schedules are likely to change as we gradually bring back some on-site services for students. It is important for you to communicate with your supervisor so that you understand his or her expectations and make him or her aware of any personal circumstances that require special consideration. The Office of Human Resources is available to assist you and your supervisor with available options based on circumstances. And we know there could be, several health conditions, childcare issues, and the like. So the second main category or area was notification procedures in the event of an exposure. And I just want to share with you all that being a state agency, we do fall under the guidance of the Department of Human Resource Management. And the Department for Human Resource Management does have posted on their website guidance for agencies for handling notification of actual or potential exposure in the workplace. And we will follow those guidelines and that guidance for reporting and communicating and making sure that we're taking the proper precautions and doing what we can to reduce exposure and to keep folks safe. But it includes things such as determining who potentially may have been exposed in the workplace by someone. And so there was a question that was related to whether we're prepared to take logs or keep logs of employees, and it's actually being handled through supervisors and President's Cabinet members. And facilities and HR have a list of employees that are working on site and their schedules. And so that is how we will track, hopefully to help with tracing and those kind of things, should that be necessary. Hopefully it won't. We'd also be involved in contacting the local health department and potentially, and Matt can speak more to this a little bit later, but workplace sanitation protocols. And also just so that you all are aware, our continuity of operations plan does address exposures and pandemic situations. And so we do have guidance in place to follow in that situation. So in regards to the question about staff being tested before returning to campus, we do not have any plans at this time to require that employees be tested prior to returning to campus. But we do continue to encourage employees to stay home if they don't feel well. So please, if you do not feel well, stay at home. Don't come in. We also encourage employees who are exhibiting symptoms consistent with COVID-19 to stay home. And that's things like cough and shortness of breath, and then exhibiting, at least two of other symptoms such as fever, chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, new loss of taste or smell. Additionally, employees who have had contact with someone known to be infected with COVID should also stay home. And you would want to report that situation to your supervisor, and then supervisor should consult with the Office of Human Resources to determine appropriate leave types available to the employee, or if working remotely can be done while self-monitoring. So there was also a question related to temperature checks and whether we'll be conducting temperature checks. And the Department of Human Resource Management does not recommend that state agencies initiate a process to take body temperatures of employees. It's a very complicated thing for agencies to do. Rather, we encourage employees to take their own temperature in a home setting and do not report to work if you have a fever of 100.4 or higher. Okay, so I do want to spend just a second talking about face coverings. There was a question related to, how do we handle patrons who do not want to wear personal protective equipment? And I'm assuming, we probably talking about face coverings and those kinds of things. And so what I'd like to say about that in regards to wearing face coverings, we are asking employees and our patrons and students, although they will not be returning right away, at some point they will return, and we will ask them to wear face masks, face coverings. And we ask that simply as a courtesy from one human being to another. We do have to recognize and realize that there may be situations where wearing them creates unsafe conditions for that individual or impedes communication. There may be cases where employees have religious beliefs, medical conditions that prohibit them from wearing those. And so, it's a complicated issue, but we have to determine, and as we move into these various waves, as the president refers to, and when students start returning to campus and other patrons are on campus, we'll have to consider exactly how we will address those issues. But I would say that we would need to consider if there are alternative ways to serve an individual who refuses to wear a mask. Can appropriate social distancing be maintained where the mask, could be an accommodation where they're not required to wear one. And so we'll have to consider those things further as we move further along the way. But in terms of employees wearing masks, if there are situations, we'll follow our normal request for accommodation processes. If there are situations where employees are just simply not able to wear those masks, but we do ask as a courtesy to our colleagues. And so I think that broadly covers the questions related to the policy sort of questions that came through. And now I'd like to turn it over to Matt, and who will address what facilities has been doing and plans to do to keep our workplaces, our workspaces safe. Thanks, Matt.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well at home. I want to address how we are making modifications for our buildings, how we've been cleaning, what we intend to do as we start bringing people back. I also want to touch on the personal protective equipment, PPE, and cleaning supplies. And then I'll wrap it up with some public safety information. So as the president said earlier, the custodial staff has been working tirelessly since we shut down in late March. And our buildings are as clean as they've probably ever been. And because of that, as we reoccupy in this first phase, the first wave, we're only bringing a few of the buildings back being occupied. So with that, the buildings that do, so all the buildings will remain locked, and each building that is going to be occupied will only have one entrance that's open. And so here at the in Norfolk, it's the Martin building, the front door, Andrews front door. You go to Chesapeake, it'll be the front door. And in the past buildings, the only building we're opening at Chesapeake. At Portsmouth, A, B, and C will have folks coming back, and those front doors, the ones that work by the card readers, will be open. So you can go in there and get in that way. So as you enter each building, you're going to be greeted by a sanitizing station. There's going to be a desk there. There's going to be a sign that says, "Do not pass this point without sanitizing your hands." You can put your stuff down the table, sanitize your hands, please, and then proceed down to your workspace. And as Beth had said earlier, we are encouraging face masks out of courtesy. So as you enter into the building, if you can, please put on a face mask. You'll see floor placards all around the building that say 6 feet. It says reminders. You see them all out in town at the grocery stores. We've got those on the floor. We've got wall signs at the entry to every suite that remind you again, please practice social distancing, maintain 6 feet apart. In the workspaces, we've identified everybody that's coming back. So we know who's coming back. We visited every one of those people's workspace. A lot of the folks are in offices. So you can go in an office and you obviously can maintain that 6 feet of separation. A lot of the cubicles are tall enough and they maintain 6 feet of separation. So the folks that work at a desk that has where someone can walk up in the public, one of your coworkers can walk up. We have installed a sneeze shield, plexiglass sneeze shield. They're big. They're 32 inches by 48 inches. They've got blue tape around the edges. It's very visible, very obvious that protection is there. In some instances, we have moved people from their workstation to another workstation. So they will be 6 feet away from the coworkers. And then scheduling is another tactic that's going on. The VPs have scheduled the employees that are coming back such that one person will be in that workspace per day. Some of our business offices are pretty tight, so one person per day. And then the custodial staff, because the other buildings aren't open, are concentrated in the ones that are occupied. And so you'll literally see them nonstop walking around, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the break rooms, cleaning the touch points. If the entrance to your door, to your suite, can be left open, please leave it open. That's reduces a touch point for folks for cleaning and just for common courtesy to your fellow workers. So with the PPE, the personal protective equipment, we created a PPE task force with facilities and procurement. We've inventoried everything we have. We know what's on order. We know when it's coming. And so we're distributing to the campuses weekly. We order weekly. We have been able to order 2,500 personal PPE kits. Comes in a little sack. It's got 2 washable cotton cloth masks. It's got 10 sanitizing wipes, and it's got a 2-ounce bottle of hand sanitizer. So those are due in July 15th. And we will be distributing those weekly to anybody that wants them. So the employees that are on site can come and get one a week, and that's good amount of supplies. In the meantime, we will have masks available at the campus and some sanitizing wipes for those that want those. You are encouraged to bring your own, which will help our supplies last. You got to realize everybody in the state is clamoring for these supplies. So if you come in and for some reason you need a mask or you need some wipes at the Portsmouth campus, just go to the welcome desk at the A building. Chesapeake campus, Dean of Students office. The Beach campus will be at the Provost's office. Norfolk campus, Student Services Suite over in the Andrews building. At the Green building, for those that are coming here, contact Brent Sanders, our building superintendent. Brent's down on 4 if you want to knock on his office and pick something up. And at the Manning building, the staff out there will have supplies as well. So as far as public safety is concerned, since no one's here on campus, we have reduced the manning levels for top guard, saved us some money. When you return, the manning levels will remain reduced, typically 2 or 3 guards per shift on each campus. So accessing the buildings, if the building has a card reader access, like the Portsmouth campus, just walk up and just tap your card, doors will open and in you go. For the buildings that don't have the card access, they will remain locked. for your security and safety. You can call security at the 7777 number, and Central Dispatch will send the guard over. Typically, the guards will be, like on the Norfolk campus, they'll be over by the Andrews building anyway in the morning. So that's what we've been doing. I got to thank my staff. They've just done an incredible job. Please thank them when you see them. They don't always get the thanks all the time, but this is their time to shine, and they've been shining. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kurt Asen. Kurt's going to talk about information technology. Kurt?
Thank you, Mr. Baumgarten. First, I'd like to mention that when you return to campus, the campus IRTs, the installation and repair technicians, they continue to work on the campuses. So if you have any computer equipment or telephone problems, please contact the help desk so they can open a ticket to get that support to you. And you can contact them by email at helpdesk@tcc.edu or by phone at extension 2457, 822-2457. Let me mention one other thing with regard to students. When you come back on campus, you may see signs in some of the parking lots designating certain spots for student access to Wi-Fi. As you know, the digital divide in our community is very real. And so what we have done during this time period is identify some spots on campus, not necessarily in the student parking lots, where students can park in their car and access Wi-Fi from their car. These spots are limited, so I ask you, if you're going into the building and it's a designated spot for student Wi-Fi, please leave that spot available for students that need it. We are looking to expand that access deeper into the student lots. There's cost and installation involved, but we are looking at moving forward with that to expand that access. For those of you that are continuing to telework, some of you know that we have a limited number of the very secure access to some systems, the VPN access. That caught lots of people off guard when we went totally telework. But what we have been working on, it's a limit of the software license, which are expensive for each individual, as well as the network equipment for the VPN. But what we immediately started doing was looking at an alternative for those software license. We have identified it, and we are currently in the testing. We set it up, and we're currently in the testing with OIS and OIE staff, as well as any new people that come on. We're putting them on that protocol. This, and we'll soon release that out. This will allow us to expand those VPN access points by about 20%. So it gives us a little more flexibility. And I look forward to those that you have that are still telecommuting that really need that high security access to handing those out. We're also looking then at the hardware limitation on how we manage to find ways to increase the load across the hardware. And that will hopefully allow us to add a few more license or access points to staff as well. One of the things that we continually have been asked is for more mobile equipment. And although we put a $70,000 order in March for some additional laptops, which we have been distributing, especially to the faculty and staff, I, along with many of my VCCS CIOs, we're going to start replacing desktop computers in offices where appropriate with laptops and docking stations. It's a much more costly approach, but what we have learned, one thing from this pandemic, is not having the mobile flexibility is costly and expensive as well. So those are a couple of things that we're working on, and I look forward to having some staff back on campus as well. So with that, I'd like to turn it over the floor to Dr. Woodhouse.
Thank you so much. At TCC, all of us are eager and we're very excited to return to the campuses and of course to our students. But much uncertainty remains about the impact of COVID-19. And therefore, on the instructional side, we are aggressively making plans that will impact our fall schedule, but of course ensure that student learning will continue to take place. In planning for the fall, a work group has been appointed consisting of a pathway dean from each campus. Dr. Jennifer Snyder, Dr. Carrie Ragno from the Norfolk campus, and I'm sorry, Dr. Snyder is from the Portsmouth campus, Dr. Peter Akbakbe from the Chesapeake campus, and Dean Joe Fairchild from the Virginia Beach campus. Also on this work group will be Mr. Kurt Asen, who's the vice president, who you just heard from, Mr. Bert Thompson, who is the director for facilities, and Sarah DeCalagero from the Faculty Senate. Also, all faculty senators from the campuses will be engaged as the campuses will prepare for the fall implementation. Serving as liaisons to this work group will be Dr. Michael Summers and Dr. Kelly Soring. The group will have its first meeting on Thursday where they will receive their charge and they will focus on developing the logistics and strategies to launch an efficient and successful fall schedule. What we do know is that classes will begin on August 24. We know that the majority of the courses will be offered in either a synchronous or asynchronous format, and that all courses will have a very active Canvas online presence. The group will explore many alternatives. There are so many things out there that they have to take a look at to include hybrid instruction. We intend to focus on courses that require TCC facilities for hands-on instruction. And these are the courses that include clinical, such as nursing, healthcare programs, automotive, welding, HVAC, trucking, and some of those. And so those are the courses that we know that specialty programs that we need to focus on bringing to campus, working on physical distancing and social distancing. And so how do we make that happen utilizing the campus space that we have here? This committee will be doing some very, very important work with a very, very robust timeline. And so I ask that you stay tuned for future updates. We have just a very aggressive timeline. We have to make some very quick changes to the schedule, but I'm very comfortable with the work that this committee will deliver. And I just ask that you work with us and stay patient as we go about the work, and we will deliver continuous updates as we put this work into action. I would like to transition very quickly to some questions that you had about the libraries. The libraries, there was a quick question about the libraries being sanitized. They will be, when they do initially open, they will be sanitized daily. All of the areas, you know, I think they gave a very good explanation, will be cleaned, will be sanitized. All of the areas will be definitely cleaned and sanitized and wiped down, the computers and everything. Initially, the libraries will be only open to the students and the staff. And that's how we would like to keep it until, you know, things are comfortable and working out the spaces so that there's appropriate social distancing. The libraries will not open to the general public before the public libraries resume providing access to the community. So there is some time, and there are a lot of things that we have to work out in terms of spacing, but right now they will remain closed. And so there are a lot of things that we do have to work out. But going forward, do know that in academic affairs, we are aggressively working to prepare to bring our students back, whether in an asynchronous or synchronous format, but we'll be bringing back our workforce programs as well as our skill trades and specialty programs in a format where we can ensure that learning takes place. Thank you very much. And at this time, I would like to turn it back to Dr. Constant for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Woodhouse, and everyone who has spoken this morning. And I hope that those of you who are on the call, the entire college community, can see that we are planning as best as we possibly can. You can tell that a lot of work has been done in preparation for this first wave and second wave and third wave of people to return to the college. But we're just getting ready for the few who will be returning sometime throughout the week and next several days. There are a couple of additional things I would like to mention for your information. One thing that we are doing is establishing a college-wide team that will be charged with monitoring all of our activities around COVID-19, looking at how we are responding, identifying any additional issues or concerns that may come up, and bringing those issues and concerns to Cabinet, as the Classified Association has done, and we will hear them and respond with a resolution to move forward. So we want you to know that we've started this work, but it is not stopping at this point. We will continue to address issues centered around COVID-19, your issues centered around COVID-19, and ensure that we continue to provide a safe environment for our institution and each of you and for our students. The face masks were mentioned a couple of times, and as you've heard, while they are not required, they are strongly encouraged. We strongly encourage that you wear your face mask. Our goal in this is to ensure that you are protected as well as your colleagues. So we strongly encourage you to wear your face mask as you come to the campuses and interact with one another. In addition, I just want to emphasize again the fact that the housekeeping staff and the facility staff are here. They are doing tremendous work to keep all of our areas clean and sanitized. And we ask that you will help them do their jobs by ensuring that your workspace remains in order. So as they come to clean, that they won't have any issues around some of the materials and information that you've laid out. We want to make sure that they are able to get to the workspace to ensure 100% cleanliness as much as possible. So you've heard us talk a little bit about policy, about our facilities, technology, and instruction. Again, the emphasis was to address all of the questions that were raised by the Classified Association. And I think that the Cabinet has done a very good job in addressing all of your concerns. I do want to extend a very sincere thank you to those of you who are on the call this morning, the Cabinet members, and certainly to Nancy. Although you only see a few Cabinet members this morning, I can assure you that everyone, the entire President's Cabinet and other leadership members have been engaged in intense conversation and dialogue, not only at our level, but also working with others across the state, listening to all of the remarks that have come out from the governor by way of the executive orders, but also working with the VCCS, ensuring that we're receiving guidance, and as best as we can, we're rolling that guidance out across the college. So I think that we are about to close, but I will inform you that a TCC All update will follow this town hall meeting. Again, it will outline most of what you have heard today, specific steps that we are taking as an institution to move into the first wave of opening the college for the staff. So you should expect to receive a communication over sometime, if not today, certainly early in the morning, but it will follow this town hall. Again, thank all of you for what you are doing to make the college safe. We want you safe, we want you healthy. And so I just extend a sincere appreciation to everything that you're doing to ensure that we're moving in the right direction to open the college to the best of our ability to serve you and ultimately our students and certainly our community. So thank you all for what you're doing. And at this time, I will turn it back over to Nancy for closing remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Constant. In behalf of the classified staff and wage employees, I would like to thank Dr. Constant, Dr. Woodhouse, Beth Lundy, Matt Baumgarten, and Kurt Asen for having heard our concerns and responding to them so effectively. We appreciate the President's Cabinet for their support and consideration of classified staff. I also want to echo a huge thank you goes out to all of our facilities, housekeeping, help desk, IT, and security personnel who have been working to make the campus safe for our return. Your efforts are greatly, greatly appreciated. We certainly applaud what you all have done on each campus. As we move forward to a new normal, return to campus, and continue to support our students' education, I hope each of you will be safe and enjoy your summer. Thank you, and have a nice day.